All right. Welcome to Too Much Information. I am pleased, happy, excited to be speaking to a good friend of mine, ex-work colleague, my work little sister, Zoe over there. How you doing, Zoe?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. Been way too long.
Yes. How long has it been?
I don't know. I think the last time I saw you was probably when we all met up not long after the workplace shut down at that pub, probably. I don't know if we've seen each other since then, since that night.
Yeah, that was a good night.
It was a good night, actually. It was actually a good night. But how have you been? You been all right?
Yeah, I've been good, working hard,
Hmm.
lockdown, all that jazz.
Good
Yeah,
stuff.
we literally haven't seen each other since pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, yeah, definitely. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
Now everything's opened up a bit more. We have to definitely make it happen now. You know, definitely make it happen.
100%.
Hmm. So, thanks for doing this, by the way.
You're welcome.
I do appreciate it. Um, well, to be fair, how I start all of them really is just kind of finding out a bit about you. I don't know, growing up, what sort of kid was you? Where was you brought up? Like that sort of thing. Um, so where was you brought up?
I was born in Edmonton and then my family moved to Hartford when I was
Oh, right.
fairly young.
Edmonton,
So
yeah.
I'd say I've been brought up in Hartford,
Yeah.
but roots in Enfield, Edmonton. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And how did you find it? How did you find Hartford growing up?
Yeah, Hartford's good, but it's very small. Everyone
Uh,
knows everyone. Everyone knows everything about everyone. Everyone's
mhm.
been with everyone. One of
Oh
them
wow.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone talks everyone's business and that sort of stuff.
exactly that. Yeah.
Like living on a soap opera sounds like.
Yeah, people in Hertfordshire are a lot different to people in London,
Hmm.
um, especially females. I get along
Okay.
a lot better with females who are based in London or from London or brought up around like a family that is like London based, so to speak, like
I think I get what you mean.
where their morals are the same. Hertfordshire girls are, they're one of them where it's like, oh, I love your hair, I love this, I love that. You walk away and they're like, she's a bitch. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So what was you? So you got brothers, sisters? I'm sure you got brother.
I've got two brothers, one sister.
Hmm.
My brother's married, my sister's engaged, my other brother's married, two nephews, one niece, one coming in like 18 days.
Oh
So
wow.
super buzzing. Yeah.
Oh wow. Auntie Zoe again. Auntie Zoe again.
Yep.
Yeah. So what was it like growing up with brothers, sisters? Because obviously I grew up by myself. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm always curious to um find out what it was like growing up with siblings and
yeah, I mean, it's a hard one though, because although I have three siblings,
yeah.
there's a really big age gap between me and them three. Like my sister and my two brothers have got like 2-3 years. Me and my sister, we've got an 11-year age gap.
Wow.
My other brother, I can't actually remember how old he is. I think it must be like 8-9 years. And then my other brother is 6 years.
Okay.
So the closest age to me is 6 years. And then my parents fostered as well growing up. So we used to foster teenagers that
Okay.
were based in North London.
Yeah.
Um, so that was really good. I think it taught me a lot. It really taught me to appreciate my parents, my family, and my life.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of them found it hard because like their schools, like I say, would be based in North London. They'd have to get up really early, get on the
Right.
bus from Hertford.
Mm.
um they'd want to go around mates after school like any normal kid would, and there'd be all these rules and regulations around that, like they'd need to get their parents' approval, social workers' approval. And it's very hard for my parents to bring them up the way they bring us up because of all these rules and stuff.
Yeah.
um But I think ultimately every foster child just wants their parents to want them and to love them, and they just want to be with their parents. So I think it's also hard for foster parents to bring that kid up, and then as soon as they turn 16 and they can legally go back to their parents, they do, and they will.
Yeah.
And it's natural. It's so natural.
But it must still be hard, and
yeah, I mean,
especially if the foster parents doing it for the right reasons because they actually care. You know, you hear stories about foster parents that don't really give them monkeys or don't treat them well and all of these kind of things.
Yeah, I've got we fostered mainly girls. So I'd say there's two or three girls that we fostered that I'm still in contact with now. I still class them as sisters. I mean, I haven't seen them for ages, but they are, if I was to see them tomorrow and they didn't have a place to lay their head, they'd be welcome here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice.
It's interesting.
What about you growing up alone? How was it growing up alone?
Boring. Stressful. I'd say it was a lot of pressure. Having to kind of being solely responsible for, I don't know, for want of a better word, my mum's, I don't know, happiness or however you want to describe it. I'd say I definitely felt pressure when I was young, and then kind of got to the point of just being like, it's whatever I do is kind of gonna not be the status quo. So I might as well just chuck the stabilizers off. let's just roll down this hill with with no boundaries and no borders. So yeah, if we get in trouble, we get in trouble, but that's how we do it. So that was, I definitely was I'd say lonely. It was a lonely growing up, and it definitely had me looking outside of my house as far as friends and associates and people I was around, looking for people to kind of I don't know, acceptance and these kind of things, trying a bit too hard to fit in. I'd say that was a running theme through my young life. So yeah, that's my lonely side of my job. Yeah, that's it. You know, I love it, and I don't mind. But go on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I think that happens for a lot of young people, doesn't it, now? In terms that even if they do have siblings and stuff, everyone's got stuff going on that people don't know about. People don't. You know, there's a kid actually near where my mum lives, and I think he's got a mum. I think she's a single mum. I don't think he's got any siblings. And he is always out, and he's out till, like, this kid must be about 8 by the looks of him, 8, 9, and he's out till, I mean, in the winter, it started getting dark about 5. He was out till 9, 10 o'clock at night. And again, it was one of them, he didn't really have a group of friends or whatever. He would just sort of latch onto people.
Float around,
Yeah, and you could just see that going forward in life, he's going to be so easily led if that's what he's doing, like, if that's how he is. And you know, my mum, when she first started noticing him, she was like, oh, that kid's a little shit. He's like chopping down all, like, you know, they'd built all these nice trees and flowers, and he was like hitting them with a stick. And she was like, what a little shit, why would he do that with her? And then as time went on, she was like, oh, I saw his mum walking him to school and she was in pajamas and looked out of her nut. So then we sort of clocked. And then it's just really sad. Like, I took my niece to the park. There's like a park opposite my mum's house, and this is where he always is. And he even come and tried playing with her, and she's 2. Like, he just wanted people around him. You know? And at first I was like, that's a weird kid. But then afterwards I realised, you know, I think it happens so much. So much.
Yeah. I think, lucky for me though, to be fair, it was more, I wasn't really especially when I was young, I literally weren't allowed out. Like, It was like, and I was kind of so scared of my mum in that sense that I kind of, even when she weren't at home, she's like, when you get home from, I was come home from school by myself, and then just through some bloody mind control, she had me thinking that she could see in the house, so I couldn't leave the house. So I would stay in the house until I got to the age where I was just like, can't. I know what time she's coming home. I can be out until she gets in, kind of vibe. So, but yeah, it was never really. She was never. My mum never smoked. My mum never drank. It's just like, um, everyone was always like, "Where the hell did you come from?" Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
so yeah, just to kind of,
That's what
yeah,
I mean. Like I'm not saying that there's like bad parents around or by any means that, you know, there was like alcohol or anything like that involved. But
yeah,
even like good parents, like my parents used to foster, they were good parents. And in the evenings, they would go out and they would deliver, I think they delivered next parcels when I was younger.
yeah,
All my brothers and sisters were at an age where they was out with their mates or they was at work till God knows what time. So I'd come home from school to an empty house and I was convinced that it was haunted. I still
wow,
am convinced that a house is haunted. I'm not
swear,
gonna lie. And it got to a point where I'd be on the phone to my mum and dad, like crying, be like, please come home. They wouldn't come home. So then that's why I started going out, which sounds absolutely ridiculous, but
not
I
even.
felt too scared on my own, like in the home. That's when I started going out, getting into shit, really.
Mischief.
Yeah. Sorry, am I allowed to swear?
Of course you are. Of course you
Mischief.
are. I was just trying to be clever by saying mischief, but yeah, interesting. No, that's interesting. That kind of, because like you always think that maybe um your situation or your scenario is like the only scenario that kind of, I don't know, you end up being like, they used to call it, like a latchkey kid, like a kid that would just be in the house by themselves, wait for their parents to get in, like kind of almost a bit self-sufficient, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to hear that, like a different reason or a different scenario, even though it was the same reason. The reason I was home by myself because my mum was by herself and she had to work, so there was no one to look after me necessarily, um,
Yeah.
of a certain age. And it was similarly to you. It was kind of like your parents have got more kids, they're
Provide.
fostering kids, they need to kind of provide for them, so they need to
Yeah.
find other ways to make income. But at the end of the day, it's like almost like you're kind of just having to almost fend for yourself at an age where you're
Yeah.
kind of looking for a bit of guidance and a bit of support. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that old Louis over there?
Yeah. He's just Lou, what's up? Just sitting there. Don't
Yeah,
know what he wants. Probably wants the toilet, but it's definitely not time yet, so he can wait.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I was gonna say as well, like in this climate, it's only gonna get worse. That both
Mm-hmm.
parents need to provide now. Both. That's how. I mean, we were literally talking, weren't we, about, you know, I said to you, when are you gonna have your next kid? And you was like, when I can afford it. And that's with one baby. Like she's not even at an age where she's wanting to go
Exactly.
uni or driving
You're
or
wanting to go bloody ballet or wanting to do some dance class, or
mate, she
wanting
is
to
old
do
enough to start
jujitsu.
ballet. You can put her in baby
She's
ballet
not
right now.
even two. She's not even two.
Yeah, you can put her in baby ballet. They do
I don't
baby
want
ballet.
I don't want these lot bending up my kid. Having her knees
I
touching her
bought my
forehead
niece
and
it for her birthday last year, her second birthday, and she loves it now.
okay.
I've started taking her swimming on Saturdays, and
Yeah, swimming's good. She's done some swimming.
oh, that's good. That's really good for her.
Yeah.
When I went and picked her up on Saturday, she started doing where she had her flat feet and then going like that, and she was like, "Good toes, naughty toes, good toes, naughty
Oh,
toes.
bless
Look at
her.
me, auntie." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, well done."
Bless her.
But
Yeah.
yeah, they learn quick.
Yeah, I think yeah. I think definitely it is kind of that, it's definitely picking up to that season now where it's like, all right, cool. When you start thinking about what sort of stuff you're gonna do. I definitely want her to do jiu-jitsu, but that's gonna be in maybe a year or two.
What's that?
Like a martial arts kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, she needs to fend for herself
most definitely.
because otherwise daddy's gonna do it and that might be pretty.
I'm glad you know. Glad you know. Yeah, so all right, so you kind of got So you kind of got siblings with a big age gap. And you kind of was so Adam, what was school like then? What was you like? What sort who was Zoe at school? Were you the popular
Zoe
kid?
was an absolute Zoe was everything that I hate in young kids now. That's what Zoe was. Full of attitude, full of had no respect for authority, thought I was the bollocks. Like I honestly did.
Why did you
I would
know
sell fags at school, I'd make a mint. I'd have kids coming up to me, you selling today, you selling. I'm like, oh look at me, entrepreneur. Like, but yeah, no, I would say I was very well behaved in primary school, very well behaved in the first year of secondary school. And then I would say, yeah, I'd say it was around about the time, probably, when I would start getting scared at home and then start going out and then hanging about with other people, my attitude sort of changed. I was more angry. I don't know why. I wanted to be that cool kid at school.
Yeah.
People laugh at me, people laugh with me. You know, I wanted people to be scared of me. I would literally have all my close girl mates because I'm the youngest. Shut up. Because I'm the youngest, I used to have like all my girl mates, like younger sisters, like coming up to me and be like, "Oh, Zoe, this girl's being horrible to me, this girl," and I'd have to go and sort them out, wouldn't I? But they would always come up to me and they'd always come and sort me out and come up to me and ask me to sort out the issue and that. But I think despite that, I was still myself. I was still like I loved my friends. I had a really good group of mates. And like I had my favorite teachers, as you do. And in the lessons that I really enjoyed, like art. If you put me in art, and if you put me in art, my art teacher used to let me just have my headphones in, listen to music, just paint away or do whatever I'm doing. I'd work hard in that class, you know. But I find school's a tough one because I know I think every person in this generation or nearly any generation now would agree that the system's so outdated and it needs updating big time. And even teachers' teaching styles, like I think looking back now, the classes I'd misbehave in are the ones that I didn't understand, and I'd just get thrown a textbook and say, "Here, answer the questions." That I'm not that sort of. I like to talk. I like to. Do you know what I mean? I can't just sit there silent looking at a book answering questions. I don't engage that way. I don't learn that way. I never have done. I'll ask a million questions till I know that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And there's obviously kids like that now in the system. So, and they're just getting fouled.
Get forgotten about.
Yeah, and they get labelled naughty kid, or then they got labelled ADHD, and here's some medication to sort out your hyperactive child. And of course, ADHD is a thing, but I do think it's diagnosed way too easily now for kids that just need stimulation. You know, they just need like people to engage with them and whatnot. And I mean, whether it's the fact that the classes are too big and the teachers can't handle it, or whether the teachers just aren't trained to a well enough level to understand all these different types of learning and how to deal with it. I mean, I don't know what one it is, to be honest.
I think it's the second one. It's interesting that I kind of it's funny because I was looking through my old phone the other day and I found like a recording when I was on like a radio show a while back, a few years ago, way before COVID. And that's kind of, they was talking about teachers and teaching styles and whether it's a teacher's responsibility to be a counselor, to be a this, be a that, be a behavioral therapist and all these things. And I was kind of saying, yeah, it kind of is. And I was getting a little bit of pushback from it, but I do think that it takes a lot of training for someone to be able to do that. So I kind of have to cut them a little bit of slack. I do think that if you're going to go into that profession, you've got to be almost like really understanding and really kind of a really full and rounded person to kind of, I don't know, pick through the symptoms and get to the real problem, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
'Cause it is hard.
Or if that one person can't do it, they need to be able to spot things and provide the help that is needed to get to that root cause. You know,
Hmm.
I understand teachers can't be everything. They can't. I
Hmm.
don't think that they can.
Mm.
And I think it's unfair. Like, I would like to think I'm quite a well-rounded person, and I'd like to think that I like to look at everyone's situations and try and understand how they got to, you know, even if it's someone that I can't stand,
Hmm.
I want to understand why they're that way.
Yeah.
But even like, you know, people go through years and years of therapy and it
Hmm.
can't be unraveled that easily. So there's no way teachers are going to be able to do that, like
Mm.
without, do you know what I mean? But I do think the school should have things on hand where that can happen. Um,
100%.
I know when I was in school and I started getting quite naughty, and I started getting, yeah, you know, when the teachers are like, oh yeah, that kid. I then got put into school counselling, and in these
Mm.
counselling sessions, I still remember they had to go over my home life and everything like that, and I'm sitting there going, there's nothing wrong with my home life.
Hmm.
That's not an issue. And although obviously, yeah, of course, in terms of like being left alone and whatever, that was an issue, and I made them aware of that. But my main issue when I'm in school, is how the teachers respond to me, is how the learning takes place, is how all of this happens. And I feel like because the counsellor couldn't actually deal with that,
Yeah.
they then push back, focus on my home life, or, you know, and that weren't it.
Yeah.
That weren't the problem. Um,
Almost looking, they
yeah,
look looking externally rather than looking at their what they're
yeah,
contributing to the situation. Yeah, it's true.
yeah. And like things, do you know what else I think really needs sorting out in schools is careers advice. I remember not knowing what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And when I left school, I'd done hairdressing. And that's just because I already knew about hairdressing.
Yeah.
I already knew about it. My sister's a hairdresser. She had taught me a lot of things. I was already working in a hairdresser's on a Saturday. I thought that'd be an easy qualification. Don't want to do that, but what else can I do at this point?
Mm.
If I'd
No
got,
support.
yeah, if I'd got the careers advice to say, right, Zoe, what actually do you want to do? Okay, if you want to do this, this is how you do it.
Hmm.
That that was never provided for me. I don't know whether that was just my school or whether that was, and it still is a lot of schools.
It
Um,
is. Mm.
yes, it's difficult, isn't it?
It is.
Um, my oldest nephew is going into secondary school in September.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah, I know. I feel really sad about that.
Why?
He's starting to get the proper attitude now, you know, like it'll be like, oh bruv. And I'm like, who are you talking to? You live in a village, like don't bruv me. Like don't talk to me like that. I'm your auntie. Um and then he started using
Funny.
the word shank as well. I was like, how do you know about the word shank? Like, who are you shanking? You're not shanking no one.
Mm.
Um but yeah, he said, we sat down the other day and we were talking about him going into secondary school and that, because he's very career minded. He's half Thai, so his mum is Thai, and I mean Asian people are known as hard workers and very money motivated. Louis,
Academic and
stop
that.
it. Yeah, 100%. And his mum is amazing. She wants both boys to do fantastic, and she's always focused on their education, which I've
Mm.
been such a big advocate of, because that's amazing. And yeah, he's sitting there saying, oh, I'm like, what do you want to be? And he was like, I think I'm gonna be a lawyer. He's like, because I get paid loads. And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, what side of law do you want to do? You know, you've really got to look into this, mate.
Hmm.
And he's like, yeah, I know. Dad's talked to me about it. I'm like, all right then.
Bless him.
But yeah, it's he feels like he needs to know what he wants to do with his life already.
Yeah.
But I mean, given the knowledge, who's to say he can't decide on that now, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really important. It's not given early enough for them to think, okay, well, if I want to do this, these are lessons I need to. What year is it you choose your lessons?
I think it's year 9 or year 10. You choose them in year 9 and start in year 10, I think.
Yeah. So come year 9, you choose what lessons you want GCSEs in without any careers advice.
Hmm.
That's just diabolical. Like, whose idea was that?
Crazy.
It doesn't make sense to me.
It's almost a bit lazy is maybe a bit too strong a word, but it is maybe like they are overworked and understaffed and all these things, and they got to prioritize. But I think the things that they do prioritize maybe are I don't want to say wrong, but I don't necessarily agree, or
Agree.
I don't think I would prioritize those things. So
Yeah.
um, interesting, interesting. But these are the things that you can do. You can become a governor at a school and that, and kind of get involved. And you know what I mean, you don't even have to. I realize you don't even have to. Your kid don't even have to go to the school. You don't even have to have a kid to be a governor in a school. I didn't know that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's these are the kind of things that people don't know, people could be doing. And even if you have got a kid in a school, like how much do you know? Because I saw a video the other day, today in fact, on Instagram, where they was just stopping like dads with their kids and asking them basic questions like, what are your kids' teachers' names? And like literally none of the ones in the video knew what their kids' teachers' names were.
That's mad.
There was one that even they asked him when he had like 3 kids and he didn't know when his kids' birthdays was. And one of them was actually the day before. Can you
Oh,
believe it? And the little girl was looking at him like, "Dad, it was my birthday yesterday." Like, "Oh yeah, I was just nervous, blah blah blah." But it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, how involved are you? How connected are you? Like I said, it's like finances and needing to have money kind of dominates your thinking and dominates your mind and dominates what you got to do. But the truth of the matter is, especially when they're young, like, what do they really need apart from a roof over their head, food in their belly, and all of these kind of things? They need you there. They need to kind of have your influence and feel cared and protected and loved by you. And you know, it all sounds great, but at the end of the day, you got to keep the lights on. So it's like I
yeah.
always between the two things. You know what I mean? And
Juggling.
yeah, I flip between the thing of being like, oh, I need to, I just want to wake up in the morning and spend all day with my daughter and take her to the park and push her on the swings for hours and do all of that. But then what about work?
Life.
What about life? What
Yeah.
about food? What's she gonna eat? Like,
Stability.
what am I gonna eat? Like, I'm a miserable. When I ain't got no money, I'm a horrible person to be around. So it's like I got to weigh it up. So yeah, it's not easy.
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer with that though. I think I'm not a parent myself, of course, as you know, but I do think that, and I can imagine every parent goes through their motions all the time, like
Mm,
work too much, feel guilty for working, don't work enough, feel guilty for not being able to provide the child what they want to provide that child. So
mm,
I think unless you've got your own company and you're a millionaire and you ain't got to work because you've got all these people working for you underneath you making you
mm, mm,
money,
mm, mm.
that's always going to happen. You're always going to be going back and forth through them motions.
I think so.
um I've got a friend, actually, a really good friend,
Hmm.
who homeschools. She's a single mum of 2 children,
Wow.
and she literally has gone against the grain, don't want her children in mainstream school, don't want her children in school at all. um and she homeschools, and then she does her own, I'm not sure what they are, all them like online businesses you can do through Facebook and whatnot.
Yeah.
She's building up her own business through that, and then doing some digital marketing for like some like beauty salons and stuff like that. So she's really trying to grind hard, and she has pushback from nearly every person in her life. Your kids should be in school, your kids are not getting socialized, your kids are not learning this, you're not working, you're not earning money, you're not providing.
Mm,
And it's funny because, I mean, I don't know what my opinion is on it. I'm not sure that I have one, because I
mm.
really respect that she's going against
Yeah.
the box that we're all meant to fit in. She's not doing
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
And I respect her so much for that, because how hard is that to just be like, do you know what? I'm gonna change things up.
It
I'm
is.
gonna try and raise my kids a different way. And
Mm,
she says to me, she has got, what she got booked this year? She's got Dubai, Mexico, somewhere else booked, and that's with her children too. And that is part of their schooling. They're gonna learn about culture. They're gonna
mm,
visit these different countries. They're gonna um, find different fish in the sea. They're gonna learn. They might not be learning what kids are learning in school, but I mean, who's to say what's right and wrong there?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, she always, you know, I have said to her about the socialization for the children, that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
She says, yeah, but I pay for them to do classes, like they do singing, dance and acting, horse riding, gymnastics. They do all
So they
stuff like
still
that.
do get
So they
socialized.
still, yeah, they still socialize.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly feel like the pushback is from people who forget that they have a choice in life. We often have these
That's deep.
conversations, me and her.
I
Yeah,
think
because
you're
the
right.
pushback is, hold on, I'm working a 9 to 5 job. I don't get to see my kid every day.
Mm.
How come you get to do it?
Mm-hmm.
But it's purely because then people have forgot that they've got a choice in that. They've chosen their life. They've
Mm-hmm.
chosen how they're raising their kids, and they're a little bit offended that this person is managing to do it a different way. And
Yeah,
I think that's what some of it is.
I think you're right. I think
Yeah.
what's interesting and it's interesting because I always think I thought of everything, but but what you have just said there is something I haven't thought of, which is like, yeah, it's true. The, like, I don't necessarily know if that's the reason why people are pushing back. I don't know if it's a conscious thing, but I do agree with you 100% that people have forgotten that they actually have a choice in how they live their life in, or how we live our lives in the most kind of basic ways. You know, you feel like, okay, I've got to go to work. Well, technically you don't. You could not. You could start your own business and you could grind for a while and hopefully it takes off. I've got to send my kid to school. Well, technically you don't. You could homeschool your kids and do it that way. Do you know what I mean? Or like, was another
I
example.
have to pay for a nanny, like, because I'm working all these hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of these things, and if it's about, like you said, it's kind of sometimes it is about just remembering that you do have a choice in these things, and it might not be a choice that's nice, but it might be something where if you remembered at least that you have the choice, then you can at least try and think outside the box about maybe a different solution. And you might still go with what you originally was going to do in the first place, but I think it's good to kind of, it's going to be good for me, as you've just reminded me that, you know, I do have a choice in things, and
Yeah, 100,
or
100%.
how I approach challenges that exist. Um,
Yeah.
you know, so yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate you.
But I think you know, like with the lockdown and stuff as well, going on the choice thing,
Yeah.
I think the lockdown has given a lot of people choices
Hmm.
when it comes to working from home. I'm
Hmm.
one of them people.
Yeah.
You see my dog, you
Hmm.
know how much I love my dog, you know how much
Hmm.
I went on about him when I was waiting to pick him up as a puppy.
Yeah.
So yeah, for anyone listening, me and Chuck used to work like on the phones, and I'd be talking to customers. We'd have to like retain customers, keep them from cancelling. And I'd be like, then I'd start talking about my dog to everyone. I'd find out they got a dog, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting a dog, and I'd find that was a common ground with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and Chucks and Dan, one of our mates that we work with, be sitting there like this,
Yeah.
nodding their heads, like, for fuck's sake, here she goes again. On
Every.
about a dog. But no, seriously, my dog is my baby. I don't have children, so he's my child until I
Mhm.
can have children.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I used to go to work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. My parents used to look after my dog in the
Yeah.
weekdays.
Mhm.
My parents are mid-60s now. My dad's closer to 70 soon.
Mhm.
They're too old to be dealing, to be putting responsibilities on them, like, you
Yeah.
know, look after my dog for the week. You can't go out and do anything. You can't go on a random holiday
Yeah.
because your daughter's relying on you to look after her dog. Like, I haven't even got children and they're stuck with that responsibility.
Mm.
And the way that the world is right now with wages and stuff, people will probably be like, yeah, get a dog walker. What? Yeah, £10 an hour. Monday to Friday, that's 50 quid a week. Like, who can afford that sort of
Yeah.
money
Yeah.
in this climate? So, and not just that, people who do have children or do have other commitments, like if they're caring for an elderly or sick relative, My mum herself has got heart failure, collapsed airways, diabetes. She's got lots of medical issues. And it's so nice that if she was having a bit of a rough day, I know that I could take my work there and be there with her, help her with just general things. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
But
Kind of
yeah,
reminds you as well how important things like that are.
yeah, like
Can just
I
get
think it
lost.
reminds you that work is not your life. Like work's not your life, is it? Work is what you do to live. But a lot of us get so wrapped up in our careers and work, and yeah, of course it's so important, but we forget what our real life is, which is our friends, our family, children, if we have them, nieces, nephews. Your home needs to be a calm place. I mean, if you're going to work every day and you're, to pay for really nice things in your home and you're hardly ever there, what's the point? You might as well live in a shed, like, so yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it?
It's interesting. It is. All right. Listen. All right. What I do want to talk about is I remember one day at work, and I don't know how it came up.
No.
I don't know how it came
Yeah.
up here, but you showed me a picture, I think, of like this, like you've had this mad operation. I was like, I couldn't believe it because obviously look at you, you're lovely, bubbly, all good. And then obviously when you see that, you just think something serious. It must have been a serious time in your life where something really epic. Maybe that sounded a bit too positive, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like a really,
Yeah, I hear
really
you.
serious something has occurred. And I'd just love to kind of know, firstly, obviously, give a bit of context, what what happened as much as you can and want to say. But really, the main focus, really, I just want to know like how you feel like it's affected your life after that.
Yeah, like there's so much I can talk about in regards to
Mm-hmm.
this. So yeah, basically I've got a rare brain condition called Chiari Malformation.
Okay.
If you ever want to look it up, I think it's spelled CHIARI, and then malformation, separate word. Basically it means your brain is too big for your skull. So what then happens is what they call the tonsil, the tantrum. I can't remember what it's called. The bottom bit of your brain, which they basically call like the tonsil part of your brain, will herniate through your spine. At the bottom of your brain, you've got like a little hole which goes into your spinal cord.
Right.
My brain was herniating through that,
Wow.
through there. It all happened because I had a bad shoulder one day at work. I used to be a carer. So a lot of physical work and whatever. So I was tired a lot. I suffered with headaches growing up a lot. Ringing in the ears, dizziness. I mean, you name it. I was at the doctors all the time.
Wow.
As soon as I was old enough to take myself to doctors, I was there all the time. I remember when I was younger, my mum being like, "There's nothing wrong with you. Such a hypochondriac." And then in the end, I learned to listen to what my mum was saying, and I was just like, yeah, maybe this is just how you feel as you get old, like maybe this is just part of like hormones or whatever. Doctors would say it was stress with the headaches. And yeah, and then one day I woke up and my arm, I just couldn't like lift my arm properly. It really hurt. If you feel like you've like laid on your arm, it's a bit numb. Sort of felt like that. I was on like a week annual leave from work, and I felt like it just brung it all out. At the time I was going gym a lot, so I thought maybe I've damaged it in the gym or whatever. I think the doctor said that I had a trapped nerve, gave me some painkillers, told me to crack on, and then she told me it's a slipped disc, although there wasn't one in the x-ray. You were just never getting anywhere with it. And
How
then
old are
I
you at this point?
returned. I was 22.
Right.
And then I returned back to work, and then my arm went again whilst on a shift. And obviously with caring, you've got people up in hoists, you've got vulnerable people that that can't be happening. You can't be losing your strength.
Mm.
So my senior that night told me to get myself to the doctors and demand an MRI scan. So I did. So they done it was this shoulder, and they done my neck and my shoulder, and then it was in the shoulder MRI that they actually could see my brain in my neck. So they called me in straight away, and they was like, look, we can't find anything wrong with your shoulder, but we have found this. And it was one of them where, it's going to sound really bad to say this, but I felt a little bit relieved.
Of course you did.
Because
Makes
for
sense.
years and years and years, all of these things were going on, and obviously everyone had their opinions and was like, oh, you're this, you're that. And then there was an answer. There was finally an answer to everything, and I was like, wow. And at the time of the doctor's surgery, the doctor said, like, there's no cure for this condition. It's a lifelong condition. The only thing we can offer you is brain surgery, to avoid you becoming paralyzed later in life. So I'm like, okay, cool, sign me up for it. There was no question with that. Like, I was young, like, there's no way I'm going to allow myself to become paralyzed if there's a way to stop that, right?
Stop it,
yeah. So I saw a neurologist. He confirmed, I'd be happy for this surgery to go ahead. Months later, I was in UCLH in Queen Square, having my brain surgery. So in the surgery, they removed the back of my skull and the top 2 vertebrae in your neck. Wow. So their idea to cure, well, not to cure, but to relieve symptoms and to stop, because basically the fear of this tonsil is, if it starts then compressing on your nerves, it then will affect motor movement, and it can affect, like, obviously senses in your body. It can affect your thinking skills, your mental health. It affects everything. So they took the bottom part of my skull. Again, this is another thing, I go on rambling because I forgot what I'm talking about.
No, you're talking exactly
no, but this is the thing. This is one of the things that I have to deal with this, because I literally will be deep in a conversation and then I'll be like, what was I saying? Because you forget, like, but so I had the back of my skull removed, top 2 vertebrae removed, and then your brain sits in like a sack, and they had to open that sack up and put like a patch on it. So they're just trying to make more room so that there's less compression, there's less headaches, and all of us, we have something called cerebral spinal fluid. This fluid, it runs through our spine, through our brain, and back around to our spine. So it's like consistently on a loop.
Like a circuit kind of.
Yeah, it's very, very important for our health. And with something like what I had, another one of the dangers is this fluid, it gets blocked.
Right.
Because it can't keep going round, because there's obviously a blockage there. So over time that can build up. I think they're called like shrinkses, I think they call them. So they can appear in your spine, they can appear in your brain, and they're like mass balls of this fluid that obviously then will compress on nerves, maybe further down your spine. I don't know what they're called, like not T junction. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know.
But they can affect. They can affect all different parts of your body, anyway. So I had that surgery, and I must admit I was let down by the NHS a lot. When I had that surgery, I contracted chemical meningitis in hospital. So I was only meant to stay in hospital, I think it was like 6 days after surgery, and then go home. That was not the case. I had to sit at a 45-degree angle, couldn't move my neck, couldn't eat. I was just consistently being sick, could hardly see, couldn't wash myself, couldn't go to the toilet, couldn't do anything.
Sounds traumatic.
Yeah, man, it was hard. Like, it was really hard. You don't realize what it's like for people when they have limiting conditions like that. And do you know what, all I could think about while I was in that bed and while I was feeling so upset and it's more frustration with yourself, because when you're someone who's quite strong-minded, like yourself, and like me, and you're very like, I'm going to do this, no one's going to stop me, this is what I want to do, I'm going to get there, I'm going to do it. When you're like that, and you know that you can't get up and walk, you tell yourself, I'm going to get up and walk and go to the toilet today. And when you realize that you can't, when you realize you can't even move your head enough to sit up, it pisses you off.
I can
Because
imagine.
you're like, dude, all I want to do is just sit up and like drink a tea, or I just want them basic things in life. And you know what? I think every single one of us on this planet takes that for granted. The fact that we can do these things, the fact that we can make ourselves a drink, we can go to the toilet, we can have a nice bath or a nice shower. And it made me think back to the residents at the time that I used to care for. So we're talking people with MS, motor neurons, people that have had strokes, people that have lost their mobility for life. They will never be able to be mobile again. I mean, the emotions that I felt in that hospital was the worst. It's the worst things I've ever been through. And I knew that I would eventually walk again. I knew that these things I couldn't do, I eventually could. And it just made me think, there was one resident I used to go to, obviously I can't like say names or anything like that, but he had MS, and he was the most beautiful soul ever. He was young, he was in his 40s. I'd always have a little boogie on my way to work with the radio on, and he would always be my first call in the morning, so we'd go in and give him a bed wash. And I'd always have the song in my head that was in the car, and I'd go in singing, giving him a wash, and he'd always be like, oh, don't give up your day job, and like always trying to joke around with me, like he always had a smile on his face. But you know, deep down, like that's not how he was feeling, because his life daily was getting washed by carers, getting hoisted up by carers. He couldn't even choose his own clothes unless the carers cared enough to ask. And being put in an electric wheelchair, and then just stuck in front of the TV all day in this electric wheelchair. That was his life. Like, imagine feeling like that every day, like you can't do nothing for yourself. So you got that frustration on top of the loneliness, on top of the so I think basically what I'm trying to say is that you don't realize the true impact of people who are disabled, like physically, the people you can physically see that are disabled, but maybe the ones you can't see as well. Like my neck movement is limited. I can still drive and stuff, which is great. I can still look through windows, but my neck gets really sore in certain situations. My headaches can get really bad in certain situations. My eyes can become blurry once I've been looking at a screen for too long. You know, and they're not big things, but they do impact you, and it's things people can't see. And one thing I would say as well is, like, going in UCLH in London, in Queen Square. So it's a hospital that's just around the corner from Great Ormond Street. Walking in there, like when I went for my pre-op in there, I shat myself, because it's like a horror movie. You walk in there, people got things sticking out their heads. There's people having seizures on the floor, because there's so many brain conditions and things that affect your brain, like, out there. And this hospital is like a university hospital for neuroscience as well as neurosurgery. So they're testing on people consistently for people with things like MS, motor neurons, where there isn't a cure currently. And it's absolutely crazy. Like, there were people in my ward that had come over from like Portugal or Cornwall, from like different countries, different parts of the world, because they had these things going on, and you know, and it's crazy. But sorry, I'm definitely going off topic there. In terms of the surgery, NHS let me down a lot. I got meningitis in there. When I kept telling my surgeon, he was saying to me, you can go home. I'm like, I don't feel right. And then it took for me to pass out and faint And there was a day where I wasn't sure I was actually going to make it. That was a day after the surgeon didn't listen to me. And
how long after the surgery is this day? Is this like a week after?
I'd probably say day 6 or day 7.
Right.
There was a night where I had the most intense head pain I've ever had in my life. I can't even begin to describe it. It just I can't. I just remember laying there screaming in pain. I was on morphine at the time. Morphine weren't touching it. The pain was unreal. It was out of this world. And I just remember wanting something. I was like, just give me something to take it away. Like I just can't deal with this pain. And yeah, the day after that was when it's a weird feeling when, I mean, I don't know what was going on with me at the time. I don't know. I don't ask because I don't want to know. I don't ask the people that were there and present, but I was there, but I wasn't there. I was there and I could hear like muffles. Like I could hear my mum crying. I could hear muffled voices. I could hear people, and I could hear all the nurses around me just trying to get like like the cannulas and that in you because they wanted me to go home. They took all of that out, and then when I turned, they couldn't like find a vein because I mean I don't know what was going on with me, but needles in my feet, needles in my arms, needles everywhere. I don't really know what was going on. Yeah, it was crazy. And then I don't know, I guess I went in a really deep sleep, and then I woke up and my mum and dad were just looking at me like, oh my God. And I was like, what? Like, I've just been asleep. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I don't know the ins and outs of that day. Not really sure.
Did you ever find out? Did you ever find out what caused the turn? Or
that was meningitis. So they started treating me for meningitis. They confirmed that that's what I had. And I just remember being a smug bitch and being like, I told you there was something wrong with me and you didn't listen.
Yeah.
But I did, like, your body, like, when you're not feeling right, like, and and
you think of all the places in the world for them to actually listen to you would be there.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, once I got treated for that, they finally then was like, you can go home. So I went home, and then they told me it's very important to keep your wound dry. If it feels wet at all, we need to avoid any infection going in your brain because like that's basically a death sentence if that happens. So I was like, okay, cool. I think I was home like the second day, and I was just sitting on the sofa and I just felt drips going onto like my top of my back, bottom of my neck. I was like, oh, for God's sake. And I remember asking my dad to check, and he was like, yeah, it is dripping. There was like a hole. My scar goes from, I know you know this, but my scar goes from like here all the way down to here on my neck. So it's like, I don't know if you can see. So it's like this big.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
So
the size of the whole of the back of your head, really.
Yeah, literally. So the top of my scar, there was a little bit of a hole. The wound hadn't healed, and it was just dripping this fluid.
So was that infected? Is that infection or is it no? Okay.
No, I went straight to A&E. A&E shaved more of my hair, cleaned it up, and said it's just where your wound's healing. Get it checked by your local GP nurse, just to ensure the wound's healing. So we went. My dad took me back to the doctors like a day or two later, and I saw a nurse. And I never want to say just the nurse, but you would think that an A&E doctor is more trained than a GP nurse. You would like to think that you could trust in that a bit more. Well, this nurse looked at me and was like, did they test this fluid in the hospital?
Wow.
I was like, no, they just said the wound was healing and that's what it is. So she called a doctor into the thing, quite concerned. Me and my dad are sitting there like, what's going on? And they, like them pH stick things they use, they got some fluid, tested it, and then they was like, we need to blue light you back to hospital. You've got leaking brain fluid. So again, if you've got leaking brain fluid, that means that there's an entry from
Yeah, the
obviously the
outside
outside into
world.
your brain,
That's
which
nuts.
means that infection can come at any time.
Yeah.
Um,
So at this
so
point, you are shitting your pants again. It's like this sounds
yeah,
like some fucking emotional roller coaster. Like
mate,
1 second you're like, oh mate, I just had someone rooting around in my head. Then you're like, all right, cool, I've made it through. I didn't pop my clogs on the operating table. And then you're like, now they're telling you like, don't no drips, and then you feel drips, and this is like some roller coaster shit.
honestly, it's scary. It's scary when you feel like,
Gotta
you
be,
know, everyone, and of course, like doctors, surgeons, nurses, they are normal people. Like, they make mistakes, don't
of
they? Like, they
course.
don't know everything.
Not
But I
with not
think
with your
the
life, man.
majority,
Get out of
yeah,
there.
the majority of the population think, well, if I'm unwell and I go and see one of these people, they will know that
Mhm.
I'm unwell, and they will
Know
fix
how
it,
to fix it, yeah.
hopefully. Yeah, or at
Or at
least,
least not make it worse.
or at least know what it is if they can't
Yeah,
fix it, right?
yeah.
Um, and I think that got me, because obviously there was a brain surgeon that performed brain surgery, which obviously everyone knows you've got to be super smart to do that. And
Hmm.
then to not even clock that the person you done brain surgery on was suffering with meningitis. I mean, they're telling you
Hmm.
they're not well. Like, how would you not know that? How would you not see that?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, that was a big thing for me. And then obviously on top of that, then like A&E doctors just sending you away. Oh, sorry. Oh my gosh. It's been a long day.
I bet.
A&E doctors just like sending you away and stuff, saying you're
Yeah.
fine, and then realizing you're not. And then I got rushed to my local A&E because they didn't have any beds in London.
Mm.
And then they done like a quick CT scan on my head and stuff. And then they said that I've got this thing, I can't even say the word, hydra, hydroscephalus, I can't say it.
Mm.
Basically, it means when you've got too much fluid in your head.
Right.
And a lot of people that have that, they need what's called a shunt fitted. So it's where a tube goes from like your brain
Hmm.
down to your stomach, and it sort of drains the excess fluid away.
Right.
There's a lot of people that I know that I'd met in hospital. It's quite a common thing
Right.
when you've had brain surgery. It can be quite a
Mm.
common thing that happens afterward.
And what is just
Um,
you keep that thing forever, or is it like just
I think it gets changed every 10 years, I believe.
wow? Okay.
Um, I think that's what it is. It does need to be like obviously monitored, like anything foreign in your body.
Yeah.
You get fake boobs, you need them redone. Like you get a pacemaker that needs to be monitored. Like
Yeah. Like
uh,
your body rejects these things, isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
Or can do. Maybe sometimes it doesn't. Or you have to
Yeah,
take
but
drugs or whatever
sometimes
to
they
stop it
also
from.
like run out of battery, or like I suppose I don't know. I suppose our bodies probably dissolve things. I mean, I don't know how
Yes.
it works. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so then my local A&E told me, oh, when you get back to London, you're going to need to have this surgery. You're going to need a shunt fitted. And I'm like, are you joking? Like, I've literally
Not
just gone
again.
through like a surgery. I don't want to go for another brain surgery. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously I'm like super upset at this
Mm.
point. Then they have a bed in London after a couple of days of being in that A&E, to which I didn't feel safe, by the way, because they had no neurosurgeons there. So I just think if something really bad was to happen in these next few days, there's no one here that can save me.
They're gonna have to
I'm
jump,
literally fucked.
stick you in an ambulance or check you in a helicopter and take you halfway across the, wherever the hell they're gonna. Yeah, it's crazy.
Right, exactly. And it's Hertfordshire, yeah, it's close enough to London, but in an emergency, is it? No.
Yeah. Well, you want
So
someone to be able to
yeah.
come downstairs rather than you have to travel
Yeah.
half. Yeah, of course. It's completely understandable.
Um, but yeah, so then finally there was a bed available in London, went back to
Mm.
London. Then the doctors and stuff done another CT scan on me, and they said, you haven't got this thing, you don't need
Mm.
another brain surgery, you don't need a shunt. And it's like, fucking hell, like how much can this roller coaster of
Yeah.
emotions keep going?
Wow.
And then obviously there was this leak that they had to deal with. So the first thing they tried was they tried local anesthetic, which is where you're still awake. And they tried to stitch the hole up
Mm.
um, in the theatre while I was awake. That was really weird. You feel everything. Like, you don't you don't feel the pain, but you feel your like skin being like tightened. Like, oh, it's so weird.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
And this
Yeah,
is all this, and you're like 22, 23 at this time.
22. This all happened when I was
Nuts.
22.
Crazy.
So yeah, go and have that done. Go to sleep that night, and it's one of them where I'm up every hour checking my pillow. Is it wet? Is it wet? Is it
Yeah.
wet? Is it dry? Please be dry. Please be dry. I just want to go home. Want this to be over.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't dry. It was still wet. And then the doctor was like, "We'll leave it a few more days. See." And then I'm getting scared, thinking, "Why are you leaving it so long? Like this has been open since my surgery. Like, fuck, I don't want an infection."
Yeah.
And I'm in a hospital, which is the worst place to get it, right?
Mm.
So yeah,
And
so
you've already caught meningitis in there, so it's like, what the hell? You're already thinking,
I'm
oh,
already
yeah.
recovering from meningitis on top of still at this point I still weren't able to walk properly, still needed to
Wow.
be aided. I weren't able to like move my neck properly. I don't even think I was able to wash myself at that point. So yeah, and then it got to a point where they was like, okay, what we've done hasn't worked. We're gonna have to do a spinal tap. And I was like, okay, what's that?
Mm.
And that's basically where they put I think it's like a big 9-inch needle. You know, like when you do have meningitis, they need to check your
Oh,
fluids. They put is it a lumbar puncture? That needle is like, yay, big,
wow. Wow.
bigger. Um, so a drain is where they put the needle in your back. It's like the lower of your back.
Mm.
They put it in, but then they feed a tube through it. So they
Right.
put it in, and then whilst it's in, they push this tube up it so it goes up and up and up in your spinal cord.
Fucking hell.
Again, for safety reasons, you have to be awake when they do that because there's a high risk of becoming paralyzed when they fit them in.
Yeah.
Because if it damages a nerve or whatever, I mean, the nerves going all up your spine or your legs, your
Yeah.
feet, your hands, your arms.
Yeah.
And I just remember being petrified I was going to be paralyzed when they were doing it. So they put the local anesthetic in and they were doing it, and my arms and my legs, they were like flying everywhere. I was like, what the fuck is this? It was really
Wow.
weird. And I just remember crying and crying and crying, saying, please don't paralyze me. I'm only 22. Please don't
Bless you.
paralyze me. I don't want to be
Bless you.
paralyzed.
Mad thing.
Yeah, yeah, when that's you don't in your normal life, like you don't think about, like you don't know about these things because no
Mm.
one's there to tell these things, no one. And
Mm.
like someone like me, I have told like close friends, like this is how you know about it, right? When we worked together, we got very close. um so like I felt okay and comfortable talking to you about this, but
Mm.
there's only certain people you can talk to about things like this
Yeah.
before you feel like you're boring people, as bad as that sounds, because no one should
Yeah.
ever be made to feel like that when they're
Mm.
discussing things like this, but it is like that. What about that girl we worked with, what's her name, that had Crohn's?
I can't
she
remember her
was
name.
she was a
Can't,
crazy mofo,
yeah.
but
I don't know. Amy
she would
maybe or
open
Amy. I don't know. I can't remember her name, but yeah.
her name, I can't remember her name. She was a very weird person, she was very
Mm.
odd. But she was a big advocate for this Crohn's disease, that
Mm.
I'd never heard of it until she started talking about it. And
Mm.
since then, I now know so many other people that have got it, and I
Yep.
can understand them more so because she first ever introduced me to it and made me realize
So
how
true.
serious it is.
I thought about the same thing the other day. Same
Did
thing the other
you?
day, where like it's funny because I even not I don't know how long ago, but a while ago anyway. I must have friend requested her on Facebook. I can't remember her name now because it's so bad I ain't looked. But I was thinking the same thing because a friend of mine's got something called colitis, which is
Ah,
like the step below Crohn's, and then I
yeah.
think IBS is the step below colitis.
Mm,
And through his experiences of speaking to him about it, it made me think back to her experience and how, like you said, she was kind of so forthright. And I don't know whether that was her way of just kind of either coping or it might have just been her way of kind of making sure people are aware of the disease, because I like you, I'd never heard of it. But it also, her experience and her being so open with it enabled me to kind of have a bit more understanding as when dealing with him in his situation. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for that, because I think
100%.
I maybe would have, and even though I'm, you know how I am, and I'm a bit of an arsehole anyway, so I still take the piss out of him in certain situations. But I would probably have not taken it as serious as I do without that understanding from her. So yeah, I wish I could remember her name and I'd give her a shout out. But no, big up to you.
If she's on your Facebook, will she see this, what I've just said?
Nah,
I feel horrible now.
I don't think she accepted my friend request.
Oh. Probably like you said, she was an arsehole.
Yeah, I probably was.
No, you weren't. You weren't. I don't remember you being an arsehole.
Yeah, I
Not
think
to
that's just
her.
because.
Maybe
Yeah,
more to like Dan.
yeah, well,
Being.
he was an arsehole to me. We was assholes to each other. I wasn't an
Yeah, I
arsehole to
know.
you.
No,
I wasn't.
no.
I thought you said Dan and you.
No, I did, but I was joking.
The cheek of you.
But yeah, no, I just think like with most things as well, a lot of people won't. I think how much things there are out there in the world that people aren't aware of.
Mm,
Like, and it's only until something's like either A, brought to their attention, B, they're having like headaches or symptoms. When people that are close to me know what I've gone through,
mm,
I've had people who have had headaches and been suffering with things. They're like, Zoe, what were your symptoms? What were this? What were that?
yeah,
And I'm like, look, it's more than likely it isn't this. But by all means, I would definitely push you to go and get looked at, to get checked. It's made
just
me
for
so
peace of
much
mind.
more,
Yeah,
yeah, like it's made me so much more aware that if I don't feel a doctor's caring for me in the right way,
yeah,
I know I can request, hey, I want a second opinion, or hey, I actually want a scan, because how do you know what you're saying without the scan?
yeah.
And again, in this day and age, it's not right, but the National Health Service is going down the drain. It
Mm-hmm.
is. You're a number, you're not a person. And if you feel there's something wrong with you, you need to be the person to push that. The doctors will fob you off. They will, and I don't, this isn't a bad doctors press thing or whatever,
Yeah,
because they're amazing. They save lives daily.
yeah,
But what I mean is obviously they don't know everything. If you're feeling that bad and you don't push for it, they're not going to remember to be like, oh, I'm going to call Bob the other day that come in with a sore throat because I want to see if the antibiotics worked. They're
yeah,
not going to do that.
yeah.
If things ain't work, if you have been diagnosed with an infection and you took antibiotics and that has still not gone, well, guess
Mm.
what? It's not just going to disappear. The doctors aren't going to call you to follow that up. Like
Yeah.
you need to chase that,
100%. And I think what you've just done there is kind of like a great kind of, I don't know what the word is, take home thing, message, quotable, um, encouragement, and all of these things that somebody who's watching this, even myself, would need to kind of hear that, even if, because, we all kind of just assume that, the doctors know more than us, they're smarter than us.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many of us have gone to uni for 5, 6 years or
Yeah.
whatever else it is, and they automatically know, and they do know. They are smarter than us in a lot of ways. But I definitely think that what I definitely heard from your story was, you were, and it is rare, you were able to your ballsiness or your kind of confidence or your not kind of having it kind of energy, in a way maybe has even saved your life in a lot of ways. Just being able to say, because some people would feel that way, say it one time and be quiet. Do you know what I mean? You weren't
Or
like that,
not say it at all.
or not
Like,
even say it. So
yeah, like
the
the
fact
fact
that
that
you
I
did push it,
requested an MRI.
And you did
you know?
over and over again, and you did say to them like, I do feel this way and I do feel that way, and still even went back to your GP. Some people won't even go back to their GP. The hospital said I'm
Yeah.
fine, so I'm just gonna sit down here and fucking, I don't know, leak out over my pillow or whatever it is. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, sorry, I'm not probably just saying things in the worst way, but do you get what I mean? It's like, I feel the fact that you've kind of like even was able to do that is a huge thing, and I think that's a great lesson for people to kind of take forward. That, you know, that kind of confidence and that kind of care for yourself, even, you know, because you know
Yeah.
we all have these moments of like, you know, do we really care about ourselves? You know, I have these conversations all the time. I care about everyone else more
Yeah.
than I
Is
care about
life really
myself.
worth it?
All of that,
Or
all
like,
of that. But
yeah.
in those moments and those examples that you've given, it's like really deep down, you have got that within you, that fucking that, you know, even though you are more educated than me, and even though you are maybe have more money than me, and even though you are have got more status in society or whatever, like
Yeah.
I'm still important, and I know what I'm feeling, and I know,
This is it.
and it's come to prove, and it's come to at every turn, it's come to show that you had the right outlook, you know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, back then I did.
Hmm.
Following that, like I haven't come out scar free. Definitely haven't. So we're being let down so much
Yeah.
by surgeons, doctors,
Mm,
nurses, A&E departments, like all of them sort of places.
yeah.
Um, I do not feel confident in the NHS. I don't feel confident in my health. I don't. I don't feel confident a lot of the time in, you know, I haven't gone on a plane since my surgery because the surgeons can't tell me whether that will make me feel ill, whether that will make me feel good. I live on my own in my flat. I pay my bills. I have, yes, my little baby, my dog to provide for.
Hmm.
Um, I have no one. Should I go back down? I have no one to. Luckily, at the time, I was living with my parents. I didn't have bills or anything to worry about when I was in hospital. Well,
Yeah.
it took all that time, and I do not know what I would have done if I did. I don't know what I would have done
Yeah.
in that moment. So for
Uh-huh.
me right now, life is too expensive for me to get ill again. So yeah, I could try and go on a plane and go on a short flight to, I could go Ireland, I could go Scotland, I could go Amsterdam, like could go on these short flights.
Mm,
Um, but what if I don't feel well when I get back? Like I need to work. Like
mm,
it's not like, oh, we'll just see how you go. And it's like, yeah, but I can't do that because I'm very self-reliant. Like I only have myself to rely on.
yeah.
Um, and last year I recently explored the world of therapy. Never had I had therapy before.
Yeah.
It's something I wanted to do because I found that since going through all of that, I mean, she called it trauma. I totally agree that it was.
Definitely.
But since going through all of that, I don't live. I just sort of, I'm just here existing, like,
Yeah.
you know, just trying to have a normal life like a normal 30-year-old does. I'm now 30.
Mm,
Um, I would have loved to have gone Ibiza on my 30th or some crazy mad shit like that. Instead, I had a lovely civilized meal with my family
it's
because
civilized.
it's true. I didn't even get messy. Like,
Yeah.
and again, that's another thing to take out from what happened with me. Before I had brain surgery or anything, I was a very heavy smoker.
Hmm.
Um, I used to smoke tobacco. I took a fresh pouch of tobacco into hospital with me
Mm,
when I went in. I'd go out drinking every weekend and get absolutely shit faced. I was just living life, what I thought was living life.
yeah.
Since I've had that scare and I've had that realization and I've seen how fragile our bodies really are,
Mm,
I look at things so much different. And the smoking stopped. I had tried quit smoking before that and
yeah.
it was a struggle. I think I'd done it for like a month and then I was straight back onto it. But I come out of there, didn't want a fag, didn't even crave a fag. You know, when I started getting better to the point where I see my friends again, they would be having a fag. Do you want one? No, I actually don't. I'm done abusing my body.
Mm-hmm.
No fags, no drink. Like, I don't really drink. A lot of that is because I don't like the thought of being that drunk and losing control because of this. You know, I from a young age, I used to get drunk real quickly, such a lightweight, and I used to think, "Wow, this is amazing." And then when I started going out drinking really, really heavy, like in clubs, I would black out. And I know a lot of people, like unfaithful people, for example, will say, "Oh, I drank and I blacked out." But on a serious level, that's what I would do. I would only remember up to a certain point of the night, and then I'd wake up in my bed, sometimes not in my bed, and I'd be like, "What the fuck? Like, what's happened?" Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't know, and it's scary. Like, it's scary when, regardless of the brain condition, it's scary when anyone lets themselves get like that. But I honestly feel that this condition plays a part in that for me, and it always has done. I never realised till I put two and two together. And yeah, why would I want to let myself get like that? Like, I have lost lost, I don't know, either I've lost or I've grown, but I've lost the person that I was going into that surgery. I come out completely, I'm a square woman. Like, I'm fully square. Like, I don't smoke, I don't drink. You know, I mean, up until I caught COVID in December, gym like 5 days a week, like swimming, eating good stuff only, no bad stuff. Just really, really appreciating my body, looking after it. And I think that's a lesson that anyone listening to this, or just anyone around the world, do not abuse your health, because it's only when something scary happens to you, you think, "Oh, I need to look after myself."
It's true.
And sometimes it's too late when that happens. Sometimes it's too late. Obviously, none of us are going to avoid the inevitable that's going to happen to us one day. But I mean, if it's funny, like, you see it, like, I went to A&E not that long ago. I was having really bad head pains. I felt like there was pressure in my head. Still awaiting a scan from that, but I haven't had a regular update on my brain scans for a while. And I saw a neurologist. He said, "We don't know how COVID affects people with neuro conditions yet." So he said, "Let's give you a scan and see what's going on." So I'm still waiting for that. But whilst I was waiting, there was a lady who, and I sort of laughed at myself because it was really judgmental, and I thought, that used to be you, but I was still judging. And there was a lady who was in A&E, so she's obviously in A&E for something. She's not well, so she needs some help, but she's coming out every 5. I was waiting outside, so I'll touch on this in a minute, but I've got really bad anxiety now through what's happened with me. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I've got anxiety," but my anxiety is based on health and death. I'm very, very scared of getting sick or dying. And yeah, so it's a horrible thing to deal with. The last few months I've been in the worst place I've ever been in regards to that. Like I said, I caught COVID. I was really ill with COVID. I think I called an ambulance about 3 times in total whilst I had COVID. And you know what? I think a lot of it was more panic attacks than actual "I can't breathe." I think a lot of it was me like, "Oh, I've got asthma, I've got a neuro condition, I've got a higher BMI, and yeah, I've got all these things that, you know, they say that will make you really sick. So I must be really sick." And since then, it's been a whirlwind of emotions of, "Oh, I must have this, I must have that." I had a blood test. My platelet counts were higher than they should be. Googled it. "Oh, early signs of cancer." I'm like, "Oh, great, okay. If your platelet count is wrong, it's like a sign of leukemia." And it's like, and it's like, why did I Google that? And then, you know, then I had further blood tests, and then I got put through to a specialist because, like I say, I go to the doctors and I'm like, "Hey, this isn't right, so let's fix it. Like, who do I need to see? I need these tests done." And although the doctors probably absolutely hate it, I need that to feel better a lot of the time. And I hate the thought of wasting resources or tests for people that may have needed them, but I was convinced that I needed them. But yeah, sorry, going back to saying eating, this lady, I was waiting outside because my health anxiety is so bad, so scared to get COVID again. So I went to A&E, and it was it winter? It was like January. It was freaking freezing. But that's how much I didn't want to sit. That's how uncomfortable I was sitting in that room, that waiting room. And I said to the nurse, I was like, can I wait outside and the doctor come and call me? She was like, you can, but it's freezing. I was like, I know, but there's COVID in here and I don't want to be in here. So I was waiting outside. So I got to see this lady that was waiting every 5 minutes, coming out for a fag every 5 minutes. And I was just like, I was just standing there thinking to myself, you're in A&E for something that's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like, but you're happy to come out every 5 minutes, and it's just our mindsets as humans. Like a cigarette, you know, is going to shorten your life. If someone
I feel
said
like you're talking to me, by the way.
Huh?
I said I feel like you're talking to me.
No, I'm definitely not. No, I'm not talking to you.
Nah, I just
But I
said
hope it's hitting home. I hope it
that's
is,
what I mean.
because
That's exactly what I mean. I'm like, oh mate.
but we do this a lot, right? We're very careful with our health. Like, I know people that go to the gym every day because they're so focused on, like, not necessarily what they look like, but obviously keeping their insides healthy. You know, I want to maintain this weight because I want to be healthy. I eat this food because I want to be healthy. Hold on, wait, but then you're going and chuffing away on these cigarettes, and you know every single one of them is taking however many minutes off your life, and it's a proven fact. It's a proven, like, I used to do it, right? So I've got asthma, right? And I remember when the prices of like tailor-made cigarettes were going up, and I would go and pay for my fags. I think at the time they were £8, I think, for a 20 pack. I'd go and buy my fags, and then I'd go to the pharmacy and I'd have to buy my asthma pumps. And I remember being really angry, thinking, I didn't ask for asthma. Why have I got to pay for these prescriptions? Because you have to pay for each one. So you have to pay for, like, if you've got two, like, it ends up what, like £16 odd. Right. And I remember being like, why do I have to pay for this? But then I just bought cigarettes, and you know, like, where is the sense in that? But we all do that. We all know what we should be doing. We all know that things have consequences.
So true.
But we never think it's going to happen to us. We never think. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. No, yeah. And it's really hard to explain. I don't know whether it's just because, like, for someone my age, a lot of people my age have not had the insights that I have had, and the things that I've seen and experienced, the things that I have. So, I mean, my mum says to me, I live my life like a 90-year-old woman. And I mean, I see it. I agree with her. But maybe I'm just, you know, of the maturity of a 90-year-old woman, because maybe I've seen things that 90-year-old women have seen, and 30-year-old women won't for a really long time, which is a great thing, because obviously most 30-year-olds are out there living their best life, and they should be. And it pisses me off that I'm not one of them, to be honest, because
that's what I was going to ask you. Does it piss you off?
It does. Yeah.
Do you feel like, because you, like, when you're talking about it, it's like you almost, like, it's intellectually, you're kind of like, you know, mature, and I've experienced things that other people haven't, and I've almost got like this wisdom of experience and seeing things. But then, I don't know, somewhere in there, I just got this sense that, like, you know, you might not want to be. I don't want it. I don't want that. Yeah, you might not want to be like getting on every weekend and cutting shapes and shuffling away, but you kind of do. You kind of do want to go out and feel comfortable around people.
Really miss being that person. Like, I was so carefree and outgoing. Like, people be like, Zoe, what we're doing this weekend? Like, what are you up for? Now I'm at home in my comfies, like, on a Friday, Saturday night, like, and I'm happy there. I am happy there, but I miss how I used to feel. Don't know if that's the right way to explain it. I miss I miss how carefree I could be, and although I miss it, it's not enough to bring that back, because obviously I'm now, and it's weird because I'm on like a support group on Facebook with people with my condition,
Right.
and it's funny how much this comes up on you mourn like your old life, you mourn, and it again, it's something that people don't see, and obviously everyone with like who's gone through a big thing probably goes through the same emotions. So you think maybe people with Crohn's, for example, when they didn't have Crohn's, they could probably live a life a bit differently to, you know, when they've been diagnosed with it. And people with MS is a prime example, because they're still there up here 100%. They have had they've like lived their life, they've been able to walk, they've been able to do these things, and they know what it's like, and then for that to just be taken, like, where's the justice in the world for that? Like, it's not right. And I think so many of us are just go through our everyday lives, and like, yeah, life is shit, like life is real hard, it can be really shit. And sometimes I think every one of us forget how lucky we are. Like, I can sit here and say, oh, I've been through this and I've got this sort of life, and but oh my God, I'm so much more lucky than other people. And I'm not saying that to invalidate, because I know I've seen some things where people are like, oh, when you say, oh, other people have it worse, it's just invalidating how you feel. And it's like, no, it's not, but it's also acknowledging how lucky you are. Can you hear the dog? He's snoring.
Oh, you see me?
Oh my God. Yeah, but it's also being appreciative of the things you do have, and sometimes it is the really small things, like being able to shower yourself, being able to go for a walk, being able to work, being able to have a full-time job, being well enough to do that.
You know what's
Because I'll
interesting?
tell you, go on, sorry.
No,
I
you're
don't
right.
stop talking, do I? No,
No,
go on.
just as bad as me. You're in the right place for that. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Better than having to pull it out of you. But what I was gonna say is that, you know, I don't think you have that view unless those things are taken away from you. Like, you can't appreciate the fact that I can actually wash myself, or I can actually wipe my own ass if there was actually, unless there was a time when you physically couldn't do that. That means just normal. It's like, I can
I
stir my
agree.
pot. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's not even like to say it's one of them, innit? You know, like, we don't want to be like, you know, when people say, oh, everything happens for a reason, and you're like, well, why did this person die, or why was this person hurt, or whatever. So it's kind of like,
Why do good things happen, bad things
right,
happen to good people?
right. So you don't want to really say like, okay, so it's a blessing that you've gone through certain things, but there is, I feel like a positive, the positive things that you can pull these negative experience are like huge.
Yeah.
You know, just even
There's always something
personally
good to take away, isn't there?
Definitely have.
If you want to find it.
And I think the other thing as well is that you've kind of where you've had so much time, whether it's recovering from surgeries, whether it's having anxiety and not wanting to be around people. There's been so much time for you to kind of look inwardly and think. Sometimes, obviously, it's negative and it's kind of counterproductive, and you're kind of talking yourself in circles, maybe, or whatever. We all do, but
yeah,
I think there's a lot to be said for the amount of time that you've had to really study yourself and really understand
100%.
how you view the world.
Yeah.
But what I will say though, is I'm conscious of the fact, you know, it's getting on a bit. What I do run out of time, man. There's a few questions I want to ask you, quick fire ones, completely unrelated, just to kind of take the pressure off a little bit.
Bit of fun.
Yeah, a bit of fun.
Go for it.
Yeah, all right. So, first thing, what is love? Oh,
I mean, there's all different versions of love, isn't there?
okay.
So you've got love that you've got for your family.
Mm-hmm.
You've got love that you've got for a partner. You've got love that you've got for your friends, for your animals.
Okay, what's the difference then? What's the difference between those two love? I don't mean the actions, like the actual feeling or the thing. What is that is aren't they all the same thing?
Yeah.
Maybe expressed to different people. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm trying to answer the question. It's me asking you.
No, go on, you can answer this one for me.
I
Oh,
mean,
I don't know. I really struggle with this because I think love means something different to every different person. Like
100%.
everyone's got a different explanation of love. I would say for me,
Yeah.
I suppose, love is having a special type of affection for a person that you just have. I don't know, you have a bond. Like,
Not easy.
I love my friends,
Mm,
like I have love for you,
mm,
but it isn't like, oh my god, I want to cuddle you and but it's like, if you were in a bad place, please reach out to me. Like, I'll be here for you,
yeah.
regardless what time of day it is. Like, I don't know. I can't. I don't know.
It's a good question,
I'm
though, isn't it?
not. I'm not great at. Yeah, I'm not great at talking about love. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Um, I would say it's having each other's back when the world shits on you, right? For
Love it.
me, love is that you're laying in a hospital bed and the person that there is by your side, that's the person that loves you. For me, love is knowing someone's not doing too good and you're there, like, regardless,
Hmm.
putting others before yourself. I'd say is a big sign you love someone if their feelings and their emotions are more important than your own in that moment.
So look at this one. Look at this one. I don't like to talk about love. You know, I don't really feel about that. She's fucking. She's on one now. And I'm rating that. That was a good description.
Love language, and everyone's got a different love language. So,
That's true. That's true. I do like that.
like,
That
some
yes.
people will say love is buying expensive gifts for people.
Hmm.
Me personally, that's not, like, love for me is, I would express love in like an emotional way. Like, someone could buy me 100 gifts, but that won't mean shit if they're not there for me when I need them.
Fair.
So,
Real talk. Real talk. All right. Next one.
mm,
Next one. What is forgiveness?
forgiveness is I think forgiveness is understanding. It's understanding why someone has done something that has obviously hurt you,
Hmm.
upset you, annoyed you. Um, and I think, yeah, understanding why that happened and where that person was in that time, and not just thinking about where you was in that time, can help you understand that this person isn't a bad person. They didn't do that thing on purpose to upset me. Maybe they've got their own issues that they haven't dealt with. They've got their own past traumas. They've got their own things going on.
Mm.
They've acted out this way, and I forgive them because they haven't healed themselves. That, I'd say, that's forgiveness.
That's interesting. That's deep. That's deep. What I do want to say is that maybe what about if they did mean you harm, you know? But I think interesting what you said though about the understanding. So you believe that without understanding there can't be forgiveness. I think we believe the same thing, to be fair. If I can't
Yeah.
understand why you did something or how you came to that conclusion or why you thought that was okay, I can't forgive.
Yeah. I mean, if I had someone who hurt my mum,
Hmm.
like physically hurt my mum, push her to the
Hmm.
floor, whatever, there's no forgiveness there. People who burgle elderly people
Yeah.
and then will then hurt them after, or even murder them after.
Hmm.
There's no forgiveness for people like that in the world. Like, fuck off. No
Hmm.
way. I could understand why, you know, there's people in this world that have really bad drug addictions because they have dealt with some shit things in life, and that's their coping mechanism. That's what they choose to do. Then they become so desperate for their drugs, they'll do unsightly things like that. So yeah, I understand how someone got to that, but I'll never understand why you would allow yourself to get to that, why you would become that inhumane, you know?
Yeah, 100%. All right. This one I know you're not gonna like, but describe yourself in three statements.
3 statements.
Yeah, like sentences. Just say 3 things to describe you. If I had never met you before and I said describe yourself, what would you say? I'm trying to be better than saying 3 words. I think 3 words is a bit too.
I would say little but mighty. I'd say funny but don't mean to be.
That's very true.
Joke is all like people always laughing at me, not with me, right? And I'm sitting there like, what? Like, what did I say?
Always in
and
a
I'd
good
probably
way.
say deep is the third one. There's a lot of like I'm very my dad said to me the other day, can't think what the word is. He was like, you're very
Thoughtful.
no, like, oh, what's the word? Is it philosophical? I don't know. I can't say the word.
Philosophical.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. But then obviously there's the other side to me that's just like a bit stupid, a bit ditzy, a bit, you know.
It's all about layers, mate. It's all about layers. You know what I mean? All right, couple more. Biggest success in your life?
Wow. Biggest success in my life.
What thing you're the most proud of?
I'm most proud of my resilience, like not giving up when you have every reason to. Proud that I live a relatively normal life when it'd be very easy to roll over and say I can't do this.
Yeah, like I said early on in the conversation, like if you hadn't said, I would have no idea that you were struggling with what you have struggled with, and what you made it through. So, I would say that's a good thing. But obviously, you know, you can look at it and say, oh, you know, you're hiding your true feelings or all of these things. But I definitely think that you are one of the strong ones. And also as well, you know, you're just this conversation as well has shown that you're able to be pretty vulnerable and kind of honest and open, and you're not a bullshitter. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Beautiful thing.
It's hard to get that balance right in regards to being vulnerable and strong. I don't think I've mastered it still. But obviously you're my bro, aren't you? So
come on.
You have them versions of me.
Appreciate you, and you've shared, and I appreciate the fact you shared it with all 3.5 viewers that I've got.
Yeah, fucking hell.
All right. Who or what has been the biggest influence on your life as who you are now?
Wow. Who? I think I'd have to say my parents. Like my parents are amazing. Obviously they've taught me everything I know. They're always there. Do you know what I mean? Like they've raised 4 kids. They've raised 4 kids. They're always helping us kids still, and we're not kids anymore. We're adults. Like my sister is 41 next month, pregnant with baby number 2. And sometimes she'll call my parents to come over because she feels dizzy and feels like she's going to pass out. And my mum's like, what do you think I done? I didn't have anyone to call and I had four of you like running around and I
Yeah.
felt funny or whatever. But yeah, like my parents, you know, you say that you think that I'm a strong person. 100% get that from them. 100% get that from my mum. Like I say, my mum's not very well. She hasn't been well for a while. Um, she doesn't stop. She'll just keep going. She made me dinner tonight. She wouldn't let me help. Please let me help, mum. No. Well, at least let me wash up then. No. I'm like, yep, I'm washing up. But yeah, I'd say my parents, obviously I owe them life, but you know, one thing you learn when your parents foster care, and obviously when you do get to meet different people in the world and new friends from all different backgrounds, you understand that we're not born in this world and we're not entitled to, just because we were born, we're not entitled to that family unit that we're made to believe when we're children. You're not entitled to that. Not everyone gets that.
And you're not guaranteed to get that. It's so true.
No. And if you do have that, you really need to thank your lucky stars and, you know, appreciate it and I mean,
make sure they're aware. Make sure they're aware of the fact.
I have been so guilty of abusing the shit out of them. Like
we all are.
No, of course. But like, I think when you have that realization, you're like, oh damn, like, what do I do for my parents? My brother's wife taught me that. Like I say, she's Asian. Brother's wife comes from Thailand. My brother brought her over to the UK once she became pregnant. He went traveling and then come back and was like, oh yeah, I've got a Thai wife and she's pregnant. We're like, oh right, okay, cool. Can they come to England then, please? Like, you know, and yeah, she taught me a lot of her culture. Like in Thailand, they get to a certain age and they then start looking after their parents. That's how they're raised. And yeah, she was gobsmacked the way that, you know, us people from England are and how we behave, because we think you're our parents, you look after us until they die.
So you
like,
can't no more.
Yeah, that should not happen. Like we should definitely be more. Yeah, and we should be more like another thing she said as well, which is obviously going completely off topic, but in Thailand, you're walking in the street and you see people and they smile at you and you can make friends like that. And she's like, she come to the UK, she's walking and she'll smile at someone and they'll just be like, who are you? And I mean, I think all of us can take a lot from that, right? Like
100%.
Like why are we not nicer to each other? Why do we turn our nose down at other people? Why, if someone smiles at us, would we not smile back? Like I don't understand why we're like that here in this country. And I think it's really helped having a family member from a completely different culture, completely different country, and teaching me her ways that I otherwise would not have ever understood. I think that's had a big impact on how I look at my family and my behavior and my character, and how just because I was born in this country and people in this country behave this way, I don't need to follow suit. None of us do, right?
Get in there. All right. Final question is, do you have a question for me?
I have loads of questions for you because I haven't seen you forever.
I have a think.
So my first question I asked you, what is it? Am I only allowed one?
All right. You got 6 minutes. I've got to go. So you got 6 minutes. So
just seen the time.
I know.
Okay.
I'll try not to talk your ear off with the answers so that you can get through a few of them.
No. Talk my ear off. I really miss your debate. Fuck, why can't I think of anything? What? You could have told me this before the podcast. I had time to think, right?
That's the whole point. I want it to be like, oh shit, What do I really want to know? What do you want to know?
What do I want to know? I want to know when you're having your next baby.
I just told you before when I can afford it.
Yeah, but
Fingers
when?
crossed.
Like
Fingers
when is
fingers
that? Like
crossed.
do you both want another baby?
Yeah, I believe so. I know I definitely do because, like I said, that I was raised by myself and it was long. So, um, yeah, and I think my wife does as well. She does. I don't want to say why I think she does, but like I said, it's a lot. You know, two
Yeah,
kids,
no,
two
I
kids,
understand
super
that.
young. If I had another one now, like they say they're both go to nursery or it's a lot. So I think we just need to get ourselves to a certain situation, a certain point, and then we'll do it. I'm hoping next year's the year where we can, start making moves.
Oh,
Or,
okay.
or the end of this,
Look forward
or the
to
end of
hearing
this year,
about it.
or the end of this year. Who knows? But we'll see.
Okay,
See what happens. Next
good.
one.
Okay, sorry. Next one. What is your biggest fear?
Ooh. Hmm. It's a funny one. It's a funny one. Because my biggest fear used to be turning out like my dad. Now I know that's never gonna happen. So my biggest fear probably is disappointing the people that I care about. Um, you know, I'm not a fan of moths. I don't like moths, but like when it comes to actual biggies, don't laugh at me. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I just
uh,
expected more from you than a moth, you know?
yeah, no, I don't mind anything else. Spiders, mice, and all that. I don't care. But yeah, my biggest fear really is kind of being a disappointment or letting or not being able to do, especially for my daughter, but just in
Yeah.
general for people that I care about, not being able to do for them what I would want to do for them. You know?
Yeah, I can understand that.
Hmm. So yeah, next one.
Oh, okay. Next one, next one, next one. Do you have a bucket list? If so, what's on it?
I don't, but I will now. I will now. It's funny because I hear this term all the time, and I've never had a bucket list, but I'm gonna make one.
I don't have one. Like you think after how deep I've spoken, and the things I've said that I would be one of them people, but I
You're gonna
mean,
make one. You're gonna make one.
I don't know. I think for me at the moment it's hard because um like I say, when I'm in the middle of all of this health anxiety crap,
Hmm.
um I'm not doing half the stuff. I haven't been to the gym since December
Yeah.
and I miss it like crazy. And I really want to go. And this is the thing about this anxiety shit. Like I really want to go, but the fear stops me because I convince myself something terrible is going to happen if I do. Um,
Something terrible like we're gonna get COVID again
like
or something like
catching
that.
COVID or
Okay.
like just becoming sick. Like this is the thing with health anxiety spirals because it's like it's not necessarily about one thing like COVID.
Yeah.
It's about like I always
In
think, what
general.
if I've got something wrong with my heart because my mom's got something wrong with her heart,
Mm.
and I work out too hard and I have a heart attack.
Yeah.
Like fucking crazy thoughts like that. Like who thinks like that before they go into the gym or when they're thinking about going to gym, but it's real and it happens. And I think there's actually a lot of people that have probably had my manager at work, he's had health anxiety, and I thought it was really rare.
Mm.
But his dad had lung cancer for a few
Mm.
years, and he lost him last year.
Yeah.
Um, sorry, this no, last year, last summer he lost him.
Mm.
But the whole time that his dad was ill, he had this health anxiety, and I think it's for people. I had a therapist, and she said health anxiety is for people that have experienced near death experiences or have family members that are sick
Mm.
and as like normal like humans in everyday life,
Mm.
we live life as if we're never going to die, because that's how we're designed to live, because if we didn't live like that, we wouldn't live. But then now and then the world shakes us up and makes us
Right.
realize, hey, this is going to happen, like it is
Mhm.
real. And then for people that it has happened to, it's hard for them to, or if you've got sick like relatives and you're around it all the time,
Yeah.
how do you forget it? You can't forget that. It's there, it's in your face consistently, daily. You can't just forget or erase that. And I think when that's the situation and it keeps unfolding more and more and more, like it makes that worse. And it's horrible because you feel really alone in that feeling, because you don't feel like anyone else understands that.
Mm.
Like me, I don't feel like anyone else understands how I feel, because there are very few select people that, like I say, that have gone through the kind of things that I've gone through,
Mm.
in terms of, like, bad health at a young age. And it's not even like I've had the surgery and it's gone now. I've had the surgery and I still might need another one in the future, and that scares the shit out of me,
Yeah.
because I think, what if I have that surgery in the future when my parents are no longer here? Because without them, I don't know what I would have done back then, because there was no one else there for me in that moment.
Yeah.
And it does scare you. So yeah, I suppose, like, I've never really been an advocate for mental health. I have always been one of them arseholes that think,
Stiff upper lip and
um
all that, suck it up and all that.
yeah, I've always been one of them people. I've always been like, if you want to change something, you need to change it. If you're unhappy, you need to make yourself happy. You can change how you feel, rah, but until it happens to you,
Hmm.
it's like, oh damn, this is what people are on about. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, have you ever? I'm still on my questions for you.
Listen,
Don't
you're
think I
past the
forgot.
time, but yeah, go on.
I don't care. Have you ever suffered with anything like that? Anything similar?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say there was I've definitely suffered with, um, I'm trying to think whether, I've never really thought about what I would call it. I don't know if I'd call it anxiety, um, maybe depression, maybe, that's a good question, actually. I think about it.
Did you ever like seek help? Did you ever try therapy?
Uh, no, but I'm considering it. Even now, I'm considering it. I feel like there's a lot of things that I need to work through. Um, Kind of similarly to you, there's been a lot of time spent talking to myself and analyzing myself, and I think it's always good to kind of have
So important.
another person's perspective
Yeah.
who's professionally able to kind of pull the right information out of you. So, yeah, I'm definitely considering it, and
Yeah.
looking forward to it even.
I think it will be good, because obviously, you've got your little princess now, and
Mm.
um all of us all of us carry things from our parents,
Yeah.
or
Life
like,
experience or whatever.
yeah, and not to say like our parents are bad people, whatever, but it gets passed down through
Hmm.
generations, right? And obviously,
Yeah.
if there's patterns that are unhealthy, like, for example, growing up, my parents were amazing, but my dad, oh my goodness, he used to throw things at me, shout at me. If
Yeah.
I spilt like a drink on the table, why did you do that for? And it's like,
Mm.
oh, so now, like, things like that, you're made to feel, oh, I can't make a mistake, like,
Yeah.
you know. And obviously there's not more, um I hear about people who always have to be successful and earn x amount of money, because obviously their parents have forced them to, hey, you need to go uni, you need to do this, you need to
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, I think it's a really good idea, for you. And obviously I know, like, just through being your friend, like, there's things that you've gone through
Hmm.
in your life, like you've gone through loss.
Hmm.
um and I mean, sometimes we deal with things like that maybe the incorrect way, or maybe we don't deal with it at all, and
Yeah.
it gets pushed to the side.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
yeah. And like you say, when you spend so much time on your own with your own thoughts, I think it's really healthy. It's so healthy to spend time on your own with your own thoughts. I think a lot more people need to do that,
Yeah.
because it does push things and issues to the side, because they rely on being around other people to fix them. And there's going to be a lot of times in life when there is no one there and you are on your own and you need to fix yourself.
But I think what the key is, I think, like all things, I think balance is the key. So I think the
Yeah,
extreme either end of the spectrum is not the ideal place to be. If you're that person
yeah,
that only really delves deep when you're by yourself, it's really not healthy. And if you're that person who only shares and is free with how they speak when they're around people or talking to other people, I think there's that area, right, that sweet spot in the middle is ideal. And that's what I'm trying to, that's what I suppose we're all searching to find. But
yeah, 100%.
Miss Zoe, listen, it is that time. You have
I
been
know. I'm tired.
an amazing guest. I really appreciate this. I've learned so much about you specifically, but just in general, I think your dad used a great word. Very philosophical, very deep. Um, a great episode, and I'm really grateful. Thanks.
It's so nice to talk to you.
It is.
Where have you gone? You're just like this.
No,
Are you itching your leg or something?
yeah, yeah. No, but we definitely have to make even if it's a long distance one, even if we just kind of talking from one side of the train platform or something, we definitely have to meet up and have a little catch up. Maybe get
Yeah,
Melissa
cool.
and get Dan out and have a little catch up.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
All right then, mate.
Thank you. And I'll message you in a bit anyway. But yeah, I
All
appreciate
right
it.
then.
And thank you for sharing too much information. Big
You're
love.
so welcome. Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.